when student mobilizations happened in this university, I request you to speak.
Yeah, firstly, I thank the JSC for making me part of this protest, part of this hunger strike, part of this struggle. And actually, there are many things that I wanted to talk because it's the place where I studied and I struggled. I know this place very well, though I don't know you personally. And also the incident that really touched my heart, and I was really upset with what happened in the university and what has been happening in the university. So many things, but given the time, I think I'll stick to one or two issues. First, I would like to really appreciate and thank the student community and the SCST faculty and the 100 faculty who have resigned and wrote to the president. And it's very important because this has never happened before in this university. In the earlier cases, it has been student versus the faculty, and many times the students fought battle very lonely. So they have not fought with other students, other faculty. So in that sense, it is a kind of a remarkable change in the university, despite the adverse conditions, despite the death. It is a remarkable kind of a change in the university. So I really appreciate and thank the faculty and non-teaching and others who have really supported the struggle. And in many senses, those who are looking at the struggle from outside, I don't know, when we're inside, you really don't pay attention to many of the larger implications of what you are doing, because you immediately you're solving these problems and going to class may be your concern. But this has been a remarkable historical kind of struggle. And I don't know whether you're aware of what you are doing, but you have really did a historical kind of a thing. And this struggle has strengthened a lot of people, students in this country. In fact, for example, personally speaking, I know now that my vice chancellor cannot suspend me because it's very much a threat in our university. I know my students are here and they're emboldened. They want to have a tent now. I thought when they were suspended, they want to do something, but they could not do it. But now they are here. They wanted to take a lesson from here and then challenge the vice chancellor. And this is the message that you have sent across the country. So this is what really moved me and made me think about it, and also in my own way wanted to be part of this. So I have written those two or three articles basically to say that there is something historic about the struggle. And in many times what happens in the case of Dalit struggles, many historic struggles will be completely diluted and the message is lost. How the message is lost? Many times these struggles are seen as either they want reservation, or they want their violence to be justified, or they want some benefit from the university, and that is where it ends. There are some immediate demands, and that struggle ends there. But I want to say that this struggle has certain larger implications. Only I will talk about only two kind of large implications that this struggle has opened up, and though it opened up with a heavy price. In fact, if you think of Rohit, think of his writings, think of his courage, think of his vision, and think of that letter. So day by day, and what an enormous loss this is. And we couldn't afford this kind of a loss. But despite that, and in fact to forget that loss, and to actually implement his own ideas and his own dreams, so you really have kind of turned the struggle into a historical kind of a struggle. So two issues. One is that in terms of democratization, for want of a better word, democratization of the university campuses. That is one important issue. In a sense that the response that you got from various campuses, whether it is Pune or Mumbai or whatever, because all of them are more or less going through something similar that you have been experiencing. So you spoke for all of them, and in fact you woke them up and you brought them together. So that is one important kind of an agenda. The second agenda, the much larger agenda that Rohit opened up to the democratization of society. So what you have said, annihilation of caste is our birthright. There is some fundamentally philosophical, theoretical kind of message that Rohit sent, and that message is something that we have to decode and think about for the days to come, and we should not let that be ignored and also rejected in this a kind of a campaign about what is the caste and so on, I'll talk about. These are two issues that I really want to talk about it. When it comes to the democratization kind of issue, the first thing that if you want to send this message very strongly, Professor Apparao should not come back to the university. Come what may, Professor Apparao should not come back to the university. So what kind of a strategy that you would adopt? This is very, very important for the next 2-3 months, because going by the history of this country, going by the history of the BJP rule, nothing will happen in the judicial probe, nothing will happen in all the inquiries, and nothing will happen with the police case, and all of them will come back after 3 months. If you don't intensify the struggles in ways that you will not allow them. And for example, take this first case, this SC/ST atrocities case and abatement of suicide against Professor Apparao, Bandar Dattatreya and 3 others. And the Telangana police have been silent on this. KCR has been silent on this. And they have not done anything so far. They have actually allowed them to get anticipatory bail. MLC Ramchandra Rao and Sushil Kumar and somebody else, 3 of them have got anticipatory bail, and they are waiting Apparao and Dattatreya to get the anticipatory bail. Tomorrow, I am telling you, tomorrow, day after, they will get the anticipatory bail. Then the police will say, we are looking for them. They are there, very much there, they are available. They could have been arrested. And what is the issue that they are raising? They are raising the issue that the caste status. I wanted to ask Telangana government and the police, who told you that the Rohit is not a Dalit? And who gave you complaint? How can you sumo act and go on investigating this and leak to the press that he is not a Dalit? And why do you participate in this whole vilification campaign of the BJP? BJP leaders saying, I can understand, because their strategy totally failed. Their strategy of appropriating students, crushing the students and crushing the Democrats is thoroughly failed. And Modi himself is now on the defensive. He is crying that people are spreading rumors about Dalits. So in this kind of a situation, I can understand that they are leading a campaign because they are desperate. They have to lead some kind of a campaign. But what about you? You are a state institution. You are a Telangana government, and you could have arrested. As per the act, you could have arrested. Somebody has to raise an objection saying that such and such is not a Dalit. He has a certificate. As long as the certificate is there, you have to immediately act. Why did you not act? And what is preventing you from acting? Except that you want to bargain with the Modi government. You want to bargain something from Telangana by not arresting Bandar Dattatreya. You should have been in prison by now. And what are you doing? And the police have no bloody right to go and investigate. It is the district collector, it is the revenue officials who would inquire if there is a complaint. First of all, you have to cancel Rohit's caste certificate if you want to do further inquiry. All that has to happen in the court. First thing, your job is to arrest. At least now, Mr. KCR and the police commissioner, please immediately arrest him. SST Commission has clearly mentioned, SST Commission has ministerial powers, it declared Rohit's identity as Dalit, as SC, and you have no business to stop. Why are you waiting till the municipal elections are declared? Now the elections are declared, looks like you are winning. Are you going to arrest tomorrow? At least now do it. At least have the best saving formula, and then tomorrow you arrest Apparao and Dattatreya. It is your duty, and you have to do this. And that only, in some sense, kind of gives us the clue that there is some kind of a process of democratization has started. If Apparao is not arrested for this crime, if Dattatreya is not arrested for his crime, then the democratization of campuses will not happen, because there has to be a message across the country. Instead of shedding tears, Modi and his government has to take some action that has a very great symbolic value, that all the university vice chancellors, all the ministers will get a lesson from that. Will you do that? If you are against caste discrimination, if you are against the ministerial interference, you have to do that symbolically. They have to sit in the jail. They will anyway manage and come back. That's a different matter. But they should have been arrested. And in fact, you say that it is only SST atrocities case. What about the abetment? Abetment under IPC. Have you been investigating that case? Have you been arresting people under that? See, the other section on all these people is abetment of suicide. On that also you are not active. You are sitting pretty there, not doing anything, and this really doesn't is not appropriate. And in this context, you really have to intensify the struggle in ways where Appara will not come back. If he is not arrested, there is a possibility he will come back. Then there is judicial inquiry. I will tell you that judicial inquiry will not start its inquiry. It will not start until 6 months. In fact, there was this famous case of Chunduru. They have taken 12 years to complete the judicial inquiry. So they will take until the BJP term is over, they will drag this. The judicial inquiry is announced. The terms of the reference are not announced. The judge never comes. And what is preventing them to start the inquiry right away? Why are they waiting for? Literally, they will not do anything. Telangana police will sit quiet. Judicial commission will not come. And Modi is happily talking about something else. So nothing will happen there unless you really make it a really big campaign. So I have one or two suggestions to say that 2 points that I have learned from your own literature, 2 kind of agendas that you really are passionate for. One, that you represent castes, marginalized castes and communities and genders. And your struggle is against caste, Brahmanization and Hindutva. So this is a kind of common agenda to the entire student community. Now that you have several universities where these protests happen, in fact, I myself got several calls from several universities like Kolhapur or Mumbai, Kerala, several places they had protest meetings and they're still continuing to protesting. They wanted details about the case and what happened, and it is still going on. So your JSC must contact all the universities for the next 3 months until the inquiry is over. Conduct seminars, discussions, agitations all over the country. Now that I say that the JSC and ASA has got some kind of a star status, and now that star status you must use. You should go as leaders to all these universities. Talk about Hindutva, talk about caste discrimination, continue to do this. I mean, you prepare some kind of a team, maybe form All India Joint Action Committee and have a team of 20 people. Go to the universities and try continue this campus 3 months and you tell them that the judicial committee is going to give a clean sheet to Appara. Tell them judicial central government is not going to do anything to Bandar Dattatreya, and be ready. After 3 months, we are going to do a major struggle and we are going to turn it into a national struggle. So you should be prepared for this. Since you opened up this, since you started a remarkable struggle, you have to take it to your to the logical end. So this is bigger. This is bigger than this. When Rohit was in the tent, he spoke to his friend Riaz, and he said, in this particular kind of a struggle, there are MPs, BJP MPs and ministers, and it is a really bigger kind of a struggle, and they are bigger enemies. We don't know what we can do to them. And now we are in a much bigger kind of a battle. We are in fact fighting against Modi and Venkaiah Naidu, Chandrababu Naidu and Appara, because Appara's relative is there very much in Chandrababu Naidu's office. He is a special officer in his office and he is appointed by Venkaiah Naidu, and this is not I am saying, it is very clearly established in NDTV discussion and elsewhere. So his connections are very clear. His political connections are very clear. And their strength is very clear. Now we know it, so we have to really strengthen ourselves. Otherwise, this whole struggle will not succeed. So there is a chance that we are going to succeed. There is a clear chance that we are going to succeed because the response is tremendous. So that I think that response we should kind of use and continue our agitation. And the other thing is that there is a kind of tremendous response in terms of writing. In fact, when Modi came to power, and I heard that he appointed some 300 and 400 people to actually handle the Twitter and the Facebook. So whenever somebody says something about Modi, if you say Modi anti-Dalit, then 10 comments down saying that Modi is a great man, you are a Muslim, you are a fool and all that, they will have comments. So they have some missionary, they have set up a missionary. But when the Rohit incident happened, the enormous number of kind of articles, comments that came, whatever is their Twitter group, whatever group that they have and their comments, and but the enormous writing is more than those comments. Even in fact, a small article they have done kind of comments, all comments are pro-Modi comments. But in some sense, Rohit by his struggle and your own struggle, completely the writing is so much, and you need to collect this. You need to make a selection and bring out a book, and you go with this book to all the universities. There are several issues raised and a lot of discussion. You have to bring that book. And the other point, that a lot of people are really moved by Rohit's ideas, Rohit's thinking, and the way Rohit's challenge. To just tell you one brief story that appeared yesterday in Sakshi. It is a story by a BJP leader, Samajika Hindu Samarasa Manch something. They have conducted Raksha Bandhan program. When they conducted Raksha Bandhan program, it seems Rohit went there with some group of people and argued. So that fellow wrote basically to say that we are tolerant, but Rohit and the group are not tolerant, and Rohit is good, but other students are bad. So, but he really mentioned two things there. In between, if you read that, it's a story for pro-Hindutva story. But within that, Rohit has challenged the idea that Raksha Bandhan is a patriarchal program. So how can you conduct Raksha Bandhan in a university where all the women students and male students are equal? So there is a gender equality that we want, and then you say that these male members are going to protect the girls. So he said this is a patriarchal kind of program, we oppose this program. He also said that you called Ambedkar Sri Ambedkar. Ambedkar opposed Hinduism and he never wanted Sri. So you have to call him as Dr. Ambedkar or Baba Saheb Ambedkar, but you cannot Hinduize Ambedkar. And it like that, 3-4 issues. And he talked about Kashmir. Kashmir is not part of India, and India is a continent, and so on. So each of these ideas is a kind of anti-Modi idea, anti-Hindutva idea. What I read in that, though in between if you read, that the Rohit's passionate anti-Hindutva ideas are very much there. So you bring out a booklet with all his writings, whatever, on the Facebook, and outside his pamphlets, his whatever little is available. Please bring out a booklet, because he inspired greatly, a great lot of people. He inspired all over the world without even knowing him or us. So I think you have to bring that. These two things, I think you must do it. And many of us outside we can do it, but you have to do it. So there is a merit, there is a reason why you have to do it, and I think you should do this. So this is the first part. So if you have to really democratize, you have to take up this major campaign. And the second point is that the English media keep on saying the politicians have come, Rahul Gandhi has come, they are politicizing, so the students have to do independently and all. There I think I want to make one point. It is the responsibility of all the political parties to support the student struggle and the students' demand. It is the students who will decide how they want to use the political parties. It is their moral responsibility that they have to come and express their solidarity, support them when they want. And why Modi cannot come? Why Smriti Irani cannot come? You rush first, you come, you take a special flight and come. Rahul Gandhi came, can't you come? Have you no concern from the students? Have you no concern students? You have no bloody concern, so you don't come, then you don't raise this issue. And in fact, the opposition parties have come, and they have their own agenda. I will tell you what is their agenda. Their agenda is that if you want to fight Modi, if you want to come to power next time, you cannot sit in Delhi, you cannot only do electioneering, you have to go to concrete issues and then create trouble. So they have decided they will take special flight for certain issues and they come, they join. But we have to see how we can use them. So now that the parliament is happening, so you have to write a letter. Please, the JSU should write a letter. Ask your Delhi JNU JSU to go to Rahul Gandhi, to go to Kejriwal, to go to Trinamool Congress and say parliament should be stalled until Apparao is removed. Parliament should be stalled until Dattatreya is removed. Dattatreya cannot speak the way that the BJP government and Congress do not allow their minister, state minister, to speak in the parliament. Arunachal Pradesh governor issue may be bigger issue for Congress now, but the Congress has to take up, opposition parties have to take up the Rohit issue. Parliament should not run until Apparao is removed. Without the inquiry, Apparao should be removed, because prima facie there is evidence, there are documents have gone through the paper. There is no way that Apparao can continue in this university. Parliament can take a decision. President cannot take a decision. If you look at your statutes, visitor has the power. So visitor can take a decision. You refer to the visitor. MHRD can recommend to the visitor to take out a parao, and then there is peace in this campus, and also you will stop your campaign, all over India campaign. So the Parliament should be stalled. To that, you actively write to them, those who have come here, if you are genuine, if you are sympathetic, if you are serious, you take up our agenda in the Parliament. If you don't take up in the Parliament, then we will also take up a campaign against you. So this is an important kind of an issue. Then the second part, I will not take more than another 5-6 minutes, is about the Rohit's identity. See, there is an argument to be made about Rohit's identity. Rohit, my argument is that socially, legally, politically, is a Dalit. He is more than a Dalit. So this is my argument. He is more than a Dalit, and you have you have to advance this argument, because there are many grounds on which we are making this argument. Socially, is a Dalit because that is established by the stories that have come now, that his mother belongs to a Mala community and she has experienced discrimination, and the children also have experienced discrimination, and they have separated from the family, they lived separately, and they independently they have come up. And more importantly, in many of the intercaste marriages, what happens is that the children always want to take the dominant caste identity. But Rohit decided that he will take the Dalit identity. Rohit decided that he will experience untouchability, that he will experience discrimination. He would live like a Dalit. And in fact, those fellows could have argued, saying that he has taken all the benefits of the SCSTs. He is a false SC. No, he has come through merit. He has not taken any of those state benefits. He has, but he experienced the social life of the Dalit communities. So who can be more Dalit than Rohit? And it is not even a social argument that I am making. It is the argument of the Supreme Court. It is the argument of the several kind of court judgments, where the facts of the case, the social life is very important, the location where they live and where they are identified. In fact, you have cases, I will not go into those details, where the person is born to parents from two different castes, but one caste is a scheduled caste, and they lived in the colony, they have experienced that discrimination, but more importantly, that person also worked in a Dalit organization, and that Dalit community also accepted him. So these are the principles on which the Rohit is a Dalit. And legally, if you just go to the, click intercaste marriages, there is a intercaste marriages website in Telugu. You have a Telangana government GO, you have a Andhra Pradesh government GO, which clearly says that in the case of intercaste marriage children, the children have the option to choose the caste, option to choose the scheduled caste. And it is based on 1975 circular by Home Ministry of Central Government. And in fact, which clearly says that it is the choice of the children. And Supreme Court judgment clearly makes this point that it is not a fixed rule that the father's caste is the caste of the child. And it is very clear, legally it is very clear. And politically, what Rohit did is very important, that he did not use any of these benefits under the SC category, but still he decided to live like a Dalit. This is more important for me, that he really argued that through consciousness, through active participation, involvement, you can be a Dalit and you can identify with. So identification is very important. And in fact, we have Dalits like fellows like Udit Raj. Is he a Dalit? A fellow like Udit Raj, who is a stooge of the Modi government, who is every day criticizing the student struggle, cannot be a Dalit because he is not identifying with the Dalit struggle and experience. He is identifying bloody Hindutva. So he cannot be a Dalit. You have many fellows. Yesterday, the social welfare minister, who himself gave, so Rohit is not a Dalit. So he is not a Dalit because he has not identified with the Dalit experience and so on. So you have no right to kind of accuse and humiliate, insult Rohit and his family. And in fact, I think this is the last point that I want to make. What is your argument? What is the argument of Sushma Swaraj? what is the argument of Smriti Irani? What is the argument of the Vadra Caste Association? You are all saying Rohit is not a Dalit. Fine. On what basis? What are your arguments? They don't say anything more than that. They will only say he is not a Dalit. And they don't even say, except the Vadra Sangam says the caste certificate is fake and wrongly obtained, that certificate should be cancelled. But the BJP fellows don't say. So they only say that he is not a Dalit. I'm asking you, you spell out your reasons. I'm spelling out my reasons. I'm spelling out what are the GOs, what are the judgments, on what basis you are arguing this, except saving your own skin. That is one. But also your own ideological reasons. So you really spell out. I will spell out what their reasons are. Their reasons are that it is only father's caste is the caste of the child. And where is it coming from? It is coming from Hindu customary law. Hindu customary law basically says father's caste is whatever. From there we have travelled along, and in fact our Supreme Courts, though very conservative courts, they have also travelled quite along, but you remained there. You remained long ago, and you don't even want to look at these GOs. And in fact, this idea that only father's caste is the caste of the child, and it is only birth that decides your caste. In fact, birth is only indicator that you have experienced certain social background, certain social disabilities. But there are many other things. In fact, Supreme Court laid down all this. And these are democratic principles. It's not about law. It's a democratic principles where you have lived, you are experienced discrimination. So therefore, there has to be. So why are reservations? Why are all these provisions? These are not provisions because so you are a child of a particular father. It's not about purity of the blood. In fact, this particular GO of central government, in fact, refers to first Hindu law only. Talks about that how originally Hindu law doesn't allow intercaste marriages. Intercaste marriages are banned. It is only after independence that Hindu Marriage Act allows intercaste marriages with a lot of conditions. So from there we travelled a lot. So it is only your perspective from a Hindu customary law and from the perspective of Manu Dharma, you want to argue that Rohit is only not a Dalit. It is only from Manu Dharma. It is only from your patriarchal law that is correct, but not from modern democratic law. So on all counts, socially, politically, legally, Rohit is a Dalit. And Rohit, in fact, imagined a kind of larger casteless society, larger democratic society. That is where his own initiatives. In fact, where is this idea coming from? Your idea comes from the fact that caste is already pre-decided, imposed. So you want to impose like a Manu an identity on Rohit? When you want to reject identity, when you want to choose an identity, when law provides choosing an identity, he has chosen an identity, he has chosen a political identity, you cannot impose your Manu Dharma. So with this, I stop. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir, for presiding over the meeting. Now I request Zuhail to come here and introduce us, the students who have come from EFLU, to talk about their struggle.
One of the struggle is not allowing anyone to test.
Friends, as a part of our protest movement, we had a lot of voices which were unheard and which were suppressed in their corresponding colleges or the institutes or the universities as well. And here we have some students from IFLU to give the solidarity for the movement which is happening in the campus. They were with us in the previous year as well. And I still remember a face, I don't remember his name, where said that he was actively participating with our protest and said that I didn't get a chance to shout the slogan inside IFLU, and I am using my level best to do that in the HU campus. So such an autocracy or the high level of suppression were happening other institutes, and we were hearing to such kind of incidents and harassment, and which leads to a very bad actions inside the campus as well. So here we have some students from IFLU, Tony Sebastian, Anas Rahman, Vishnu and Afzal. And I request Tony Sebastian, Students Union, IFLU Students Union President, to share his experience and then also to give the solidarity message.
Hello everyone. HCU is witnessing a historical struggle, no doubt. It is historical and its echoes will run through the student struggle. It will direct the course of the student struggles throughout the country. I have no doubt. But what inspires us, what inspires the students of FLU is not the strength, but the unity of the students and the faculty of HCU. Now, in FLU, we have a university which takes pride in the fact that it implements the policies of the MHRD first in the country. And this is something that the CEO of the university told us. Now, you may ask us, why are you not protesting? Why are you not coming out and protesting? We are protesting, we have been protesting, and we will continue to protest. And Rohit's death, it has awakened in us a new fire to fight till our rights are met. As Professor Satyanarayana has rightly pointed out, Rohit's death, it's not just an instance of Dalit oppression. It's something more than that. I feel that we are living in a nation which even considers the caste issue as a non-existent. We are facing a group of individuals, a society which thinks that the caste issue is not worth even discussing. And Rohit's death, his suicide note struck at that very point. His suicide note points to the fact that caste issue, the issue of caste, is very much alive, and it is a felt experience, that it is a lived experience, and that the oppression that the individuals belonging to a Dalit community face are very real, and as real as his death. Also, the message, the larger message that Rohit gives to all the students across the country and to all the universities, the faculty members, is that of the ideological intrusion of the BJP-led, Modi-led BJP government and their Hindutva ideology that pervades the universities, that demands the universities to become autocratic institutions which simply are performing an educational role, which are simply there to produce students like, chickens in a coop. Rohit tells us through his suicide note that you have to dream bigger, that you have to come from the shadows to the stars, that the activism, that the experiences that you have as a Dalit scholar, as someone belonging to a minority community, any sort of minority, be it sexual or caste-based or whatever you are, you have a right as an individual of this country to come and face the nation and question the people who are oppressing you based on the rights given to us by the Constitution. Today when I stand before you, I am truly inspired by the kind of response. I mean, even in FLU, even for the recent protest that we called yesterday, the students and the faculty members would not join us.